Hi, I'm Alexis with local Ambrosia, and today we'll be making Pico De Gallo. To get started, you're going to need an extra large workspace. I have a huge cutting board laid out, my sharpest knife I have, and a large mixing bowl to put it all in. Pico De Gallo is really one of those great go-to fresh salsas that we make quite frequently. It only has tomatoes, onions, serrano chilies, cilantro, and limes or lemons. And really the freshness can go on anything. One of our household favorites is to put it on top of carnitas or steak. And it really just transforms the dish just a little bit by making it fresh and new. You don't see it a lot. I have a few different types of tomatoes that I had on hand today. These ones just being your usual beefsteak tomatoes. And as you can see, they have quite a few seeds and are quite watery. The other tomatoes I have are these Roma tomatoes. And the Roma tomatoes are a little bit heavier and a little bit fleshier. You'll see they don't have quite as much of the watery, seedy part. They make for a bit of a drier Pico de Gallo. Because Pico de Gallo really has such few ingredients to it, you really want to make sure you spend the time and make every slice pretty uniform. It'll make eating it a lot easier, and you'll get the perfect balanced bite of onions and tomatoes and cilantro. For our recipe, I like to keep it so that the ratio of tomatoes to onions is just about equal. But as always, if you don't like onions as much, still add a little bit. They give it a good flavor and a good crunch, but feel free to adjust the ratio. And don't let the top that you cut off of it go to waste. Just slice right around the top core of it, and you have just a few bits more to add to your salsa. When cooking without a recipe, as I most frequently do, you rely a lot on ratios. And so what we're looking for here is equal parts tomatoes and onions. So when you're trying to see about how many tomatoes you need to use, you're going to want to use about as half the quantity that you're looking for the final product to be. So here we're just about halfway full of our bowl with the tomatoes. And it looks like we've used about 5 large Roma tomatoes. But this should serve quite a few people, or at least last you through the week. All right. I like to use the serrano pepper. It doesn't have that classic jalapeno flavor to it. I find it a little bit more spicy as well. So what I do is I just take it, have it. I like a lot of heat, so I'm going to leave the ribs, which is this white part, and the seeds in. And you just want to dice it very finely so that you can really distribute all that heat. But if you like it really spicy and not a lot of that peppery flavor, go ahead and use a habanero. You'll probably only need to use 1 or even just a half. Now, as a disclaimer, since you're working with both hands here with the peppers, make sure to give them a good rub down in the sink with some soap and water to make sure that you don't go and touch your eyes or your nose afterwards, because it will burn. All right, we'll get started on our onions next. I start by cutting off both ends of my onions. Cut it right down the middle and peel off a good 2 layers. That way you make sure to get rid of any tough areas on the outside that will disrupt the texture of your dish. Now, to give it a really quick and easy dice, you're going to turn it on its end and slice down, but don't go all the way through. You want to leave a little bit connected at the bottom. Now turn it around and do the same going this way. And then just run your knife through it, knowing that these are the final sizes of the onions that you're going to get. And work quickly so you don't start to cry. Once you're done chopping all of your onions and you've cleaned up from the crying that you've done from chopping the onions, you want to give it a good toss to see what the ratio is you're working with. I'd say that looks pretty good. So now we'll add in our cilantro. Probably about a good handful. Wad it up. A good toss. And now really the next ingredients, the lime and the salt, are just to taste. If you like it really tangy, really citrusy, go ahead and add more. I think we'll start with probably about 4 key limes. Key limes are much smaller than your traditional lime. You'll find them pre-packaged at a lot of the little Mexican markets. But they're really full of lemon or of lime juice. And if you have a lime press, you can get quite a bit of that juice out. And then a good large pinch or 2 of salt. Pico De Gallo doesn't last too long in the fridge. I'd say about 4 days max. You'll notice that the tomatoes start to wilt down with the lime juice. But you don't lose a lot of that flavor, so it's still good heated up in beans or on top of rice. And that is how local Ambrosia does Pico De Gallo.